Kick it off with the big story of the day. Former President Donald Trump being arraigned as we speak right now in Miami. We're taking a live picture right now from the federal courthouse in South Florida. Former President Trump going inside just about an hour ago. He's being arraigned on those federal charges related to the classified documents that were recovered from Mar-a-Lago last summer. And again, we're going to keep this live picture for us on the corner of your screen throughout the show, and then we'll revisit if there are any updates to pass along. And again, we're seeing a lot of protesters, some pro-Trump protesters, some who are against what is happening. But our chief legal correspondent with us, Katie Barlow. Katie, walk us through what is happening right now. We know that initial appearance is scheduled for right now at the top of the hour, but we understand he's already been booked.
Yes, he has surrendered himself to the federal authorities and has gone through the booking process. We talked about this a little bit with the New York case. He will surrender himself to the authorities. He'll go through the booking process, and then he'll appear before a judge who will ask him if he is on notice of the charges that are pending against him, if he's had his chance to talk to his lawyer about that. So we understand the first portion of that is done, and now the president will be heading, which is scheduled for right now, to be before a judge. And a lot of things are going to be happening at that conference. There's a lot to keep an eye on. First of all, we learned late last night that nobody in the room, no members of the media are allowed to bring in any cell phones. So everything that we're going to learn about what happens in that room, we're going to get from the folks who are sitting inside it and have to walk all the way outside the courthouse to tell us about it. One thing I'm going to be looking for is to see if we hear anything from President Trump's attorneys. But what happens in that room? After the judge reads him the charges or asks him if he's aware of the charges, the president will plead. I would imagine it's going to be not guilty based on his public statements, and a few other things will happen. There will be maybe bail conditions. There's no indication that the government is interested in trying to put him or keep him in jail pending trial at this point. But one question is, will the president be able to keep his passport? Sometimes criminal defendants in these types of cases have to surrender their passport. Our understanding is that pretrial services will be taking a look at that today and making a recommendation. So that's something to keep an eye on for the process. The other thing that we should be looking at is speed, how quickly everything is going to go. We know that Judge Eileen Cannon, who is a Trump appointee, has been assigned to oversee this case. But today, the president is going to appear before a magistrate judge. A magistrate judge handles a lot of the procedural issues, initial appearance. And the big question here is whether the magistrate judge goes ahead and sets a schedule for the next conference, for when the next appearance will be before Judge Cannon. We'll get a good sense from both the judge and from both sides here how quickly they're interested in moving forward.
One thing that's still a big unknown, because obviously in federal court, cameras are not allowed inside, so we won't get a sense of what is happening inside. But will special counsel Jack Smith come face to face for the first time with Donald Trump? And the question more so is what happens next, because we heard from Jack Smith after the unsealment of the indictment saying he has the right to a speedy trial. However, it's not incumbent on the prosecution.
Right. So this will be a chance for Jack Smith to be in person. Another thing to keep an eye on today is who shows up from his team, who is in the courtroom on behalf of the prosecutors here. We'll get a better look at that team. Obviously, our team with Fox News and other reporters have been tracking that team, but we'll get a good look at them today. They will be across the bar from the defendant, in this case, Donald Trump. And to your point, Marina, when we heard those few words from special counsel Jack Smith, he said he intends to ask for a speedy trial. And that's something that he can certainly ask, but there's something called the Speedy Trial Act, and that gives the right to the defendant to demand a speedy trial. That's really a right that belongs to the defendant. Here, that would be Donald Trump. He could demand a speedy trial in this case. Prosecutors can ask for it, but that's not really a right that they have. My gut is that what Jack Smith was saying was, we're ready to go. And that's what I'll also be looking for in the courtroom today. How quickly, and if the prosecution says, you know, Judge, please, we're prepared to go to trial on this date. We already have our evidence and what we're required to give the defendant ready to go, and we're ready to move forward. If he indicates that, which would follow what he said. I'm asking for a speedy trial.
The reason I bring that up is because we are in an election cycle here, and that would interfere with campaigning, with traveling. To your point, pretrial services, he does have to report to probation officer, may even have to surrender his passport, which is something that is a possibility in all of this. And if you go into that rocket docket, so-called, that they say for federal cases, then this may happen before 2024.
It could, but look, this case deals with a lot of classified information, with national defense information, and there is something that we're all going to be learning a lot about in the coming days, which is something called the Classified Information Procedures Act. That's going to apply in this case, and it gives the defense an opportunity to really slow things down. There will be lots of conversations about how this information is handled, because guess what? The key evidence in this case laid out in the indictment is classified information, is national defense information, is information that, well, the prosecution is going to have to decide how and whether they're going to turn it over to Trump and to a jury.
All right, our chief legal correspondent, Katie Barlow, breaking down what we can expect. Katie, we're going to keep following this, and we'll bring you back in if there's any new developments that we hear from court, so you can help break it down for us.
We'll keep an eye on it.